Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcia Nedlin. I'm the moderator for today's session, Updating Middle Neighborhood Housing Stock to Appeal to Today's Home Buyers, Part 2, Financing Strategies. I hope that many of you were able to attend Part 1, where it was the same general topic, except we focused on acquisition, rehab, resale strategies. And that was a very interesting session, included a lot of practical details about the kind of updates that are most impactful in pulling up housing values and in attracting today's buyers who have many choices of newer housing stock. You can find all of those recordings at our website, middleneighborhoods.org. So I think we're going to go ahead and move on, although it may take a little while for everyone to come into the webinar from the waiting area. Just a little bit about Middle Neighborhoods before we start. I introduce our speakers. We have kind of two parts. The national initiative is focused on mobilizing attention to reverse the trend of decline in middle neighborhoods. If any of you, I suspect a lot of you have been on the Middle Neighborhoods 101 webinar, which we do every month, and we did today, this morning. We talked a lot about, more detail about what the vulnerabilities of middle neighborhoods are right now, what the interventions are, and how we're trying to get middle neighborhoods on the radar of local and national policy and getting more resources invested in them. The national initiative does this through research, policy analysis, and advocacy. And that is coordinated by the National Community Stabilization Trust, NCST. I suspect many of you have worked with them before. They've done an enormous amount of work in this country on transferring foreclosed property to developers who are going to do a good job with it. Oftentimes, those are nonprofit developers. We have a steering committee of about 20 people that include researchers, practitioners, and policymakers. And Anne is advancing slides today, where for some reason the slides are advancing a little slowly. The other sort of main part of the Middle Neighborhoods Initiative is the community practice. It's an informal, lightly facilitated network. We have over 300 members right now. It's all people who are either working in or looking at researching, interested in middle neighborhoods. We share learnings through topical webinars like this one, referrals, virtual site visits right now, phone calls, occasional larger group events when we can. I encourage any of you to reach out to me if you would like for me to pull off one of those things for you. We're here to serve people who are interested in advancing the cause of middle neighborhoods in their communities, in learning more about them, and we'll deliver webinars for you or whatever we can do to help out. The community practice is supported by NeighborWorks America, the other major partner. And I am one of the organizers for the community practice. And we also have on this call, I think at least we have Anne who's advancing some of the slides. And we may have also Sheila Squire, who's another person working on this. And please do go and join us at middleneighborhoods.org. At the bottom of any website page is a sign up area where you can choose to just receive our newsletter or to also join the COP, which gives you access to our listserv and allows you to communicate directly with other COP members. And I encourage you to do so. So today's agenda, I try so hard to stop at 2 people, but I just couldn't today because we had too many outstanding practitioners that I really wanted you to hear. So we have 3 people. Jenny Hope is the Director of Neighborhood Programs at Healthy Neighborhoods, which is a CDFI nonprofit in Baltimore. Sherelle Parker is a councilwoman and the majority leader of the Philadelphia City Council, who is an exciting and staunch advocate for middle neighborhoods. And Amber Lynch is the executive director of Invest DSM, a fairly recently created nonprofit created by the city and county, the city of Des Moines, Iowa. And boy, Amber, I think I've lost the memory of what the name of your county is. I apologize. She'll tell us later. And that is a city led effort to invest in groups of middle neighborhoods to try to reverse the trend of declining housing values there. And then we'll have a closing. We're going to save, please, I encourage you to put all your questions into the Q&A or the chat, and I will keep an eye on them throughout the rest of the webinar, and I'll answer those, within the chat or the Q&A when I can, and I'll save up the rest of them for whenever all our speakers are done, and we can have them address some of the questions. So I think we're ready to get started with our first speaker, Jenny Hope.
Hello, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm honored to be with my colleagues, Councilwoman Parker and Amber Lynch from Des Moines. I work at Healthy Neighborhoods. We're a nonprofit that's been in Baltimore City for about 20 years, and our purpose is to help the middle neighborhoods improve the housing stock and increase housing values and market the communities. And what we do is build strong connections amongst neighbors by a variety of ways, which I'll get into. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Baltimore City in general. It's a pretty old city. Sorry, I went too fast. It was a little old city that was incorporated in 1730. This is a picture of the monument that we built to George Washington. We built it up on a hill, so if it fell, it wouldn't hurt anybody. And now it's definitely in downtown Baltimore. I'm sure you've seen lots of images of Baltimore with row houses like this, sort of simple 12-foot wide houses. We do have some ornate row houses, porch front, brick sturdy row houses, and some not so attractive houses that need some modernization, as well as bungalows with driveways and large wooden frame houses that I like to refer to as money pits, because some of these are 100 years old and need a lot of repair. So our city also has 33% park space, and so our nonprofit partners work with the Rec and Parks Department to do fundraisers and events in the parks. This park is surrounded by houses on all sides. It's 28 acres of park in beautiful downtown Baltimore. This is a map of Baltimore that shows the typology map, which is what we use to determine what are middle neighborhoods. The typology is put together by the Housing Department and the Planning Department with the Reinvestment Fund, came up with a way to do block by block analysis on median sale price, percentage of vacancies, percentage of foreclosures, percentage of owner occupied, and percentage of residential permits that are over $10,000. And putting all that together, you can see that there are areas by this part right here with the alphabet A and B and C are more affluent neighborhoods with less distressed properties. D, E, F, G, and H are our middle neighborhoods. So they're scattered throughout the city. And then I and J are the oldest parts of our city that have seen a lot of disinvestment and are more distressed. So we use this map to strategically match resources to the neighborhood market condition. This is the map of the healthy neighborhoods outlined in the lavender. So we're in 49 neighborhoods now. We started with 3 partner groups in about 9 neighborhoods at the beginning of the program in 2000. You can see that the middle neighborhoods are adjacent to parkland in most cases. We are working with partners on the ground in those neighborhoods. Some of these are large CDCs with 20 to 30 staff people. Some are 1 or 2 person shops. Some are volunteer organizations like the Resident Association that we work with to market their neighborhood. And 6 of these also have a housing counseling component of their agency. and 4 are main streets, which work with the commercial districts as well as the housing issues in their neighborhoods. We work with these partners through trainings and we fund them for operating costs, and we provide networking opportunities to bring them together to talk about best practices, learn from each other, talk about successful fundraisers, and we help them market their neighborhood to promote homeownership. To that end, we encourage all of our organizers to really know their market, look at the listings, talk to real estate agents, especially the listings that have pictures of a distressed property, and make sure that they know that it's in a healthy neighborhood that can use the loans to do the rehab. The problem is Baltimore is a very old city with lots of old properties. 47% are over 80 years old. And so we need a lot of subsidy to be able to improve those houses and make them marketable. We created the loan program in the early 2000s, and we have 3 types of loans: purchase rehab, refi rehab, and home improvement. All require some component of rehab, and we encourage exterior rehab, or we require exterior rehab as part of the proposal. The loan pools have been organized into 1, 2, and 3. Currently we're using the 3rd loan pool, which is 5 banks that contributed $35 million. We have 4 guarantors, and the guarantors of the loan pools help us to not charge PMI. So we've done more than 700 loans, and we also have a matching grant program, which I'll talk about. The advantages of healthy neighborhood loans are that we don't charge private mortgage insurance. We allow borrowers to take up to 110% of the after rehab value. We don't have upper income restrictions because we want people of all incomes to live in middle neighborhoods. And we provide free design services with an architect who's on retainer. The architect goes out to every single property that we are doing a loan for and looks at the property and the contractor proposal to make sure that it's reasonable, that it meets code, that there aren't other significant problems that the buyer or the homeowner have not looked at, and just helps them with their rehab. It's an invaluable service that we offer. And for folks that make less than 120% of the area median income, we do have a matching grant program. And we have a 620 credit score on our purchase rehab loans. So the matching grant, it allows, if somebody borrows $10,000, to match it with $10,000. And the 120% of AMI in Baltimore is about $85,000 a year for one person. The loans are very comparable to the Fannie Mae Homestyle and the 203K loans. And so we put this chart together to show that when you don't pay a PMI, you save a couple $100 a month, and that equates to $10,000 over 5 years. The closing costs are also higher on a Homestyle or a 203K. This is the program that I run as the Director of Neighborhood Programs. We have granted more than $1 million since 2007 across the 49 neighborhoods. We've done a lot of capital projects where neighborhoods get together and talk about a vacant lot that needs public art or murals. We do a lot of porch lights and solar lights. We've done playground equipment. And then we also fund marketing activities, website improvements, and tours with real estate agents. And we pay for homeownership marketing materials and home improvement loans. We do door hangers and postcard mailings to residents in our neighborhoods to make sure that they know about the home improvement loan. We have a couple examples of the solar lamps that we put in yards, and we do a lot of cleanups. We do a lot of funding of signs for the neighborhoods, and they're maintained by the residents in the neighborhood. We have strung a lot of lights across the street. I would like to count all the light bulbs we have in Baltimore, but it's a contagious project. One block will do it, and the next block over will say, "Oh, we want string lights as well. This is the night they lit the string lights, and they had a chili cook-off in the street. This is a mural that announces that you're entering Library Square, which is a neighborhood. And this is a mural that you can't miss on Lombard and Conkling. Used to be a plain green building that you didn't know really what it was. Now you want to go inside and see what they're selling. We evaluate our program every year. We look at increased home values across the neighborhoods. We look at decreased time on the market, increased equity investments, and we count the number of neighborhood activities that happen, that both sort of the fun social gatherings as well as the real estate tours. We have hired a consultant to look at neighborhoods every year, and he's put together a report that I'll show you. This is Bel Air Edison neighborhood with nice porch fronts. And this is the Bel Air Edison page of the report. So all 49 neighborhoods have this evaluation that shows the number of home sales, the sale price, and the type of financing that was used. So you can see that the foreclosures have gone down, the standard financing has gone up, and the average price is $104,000 for a house in Bel Air Edison. But if you add all the types of financing together, it's at 90,000. So we're hoping that number keeps going up. We have an example too of Edner Gardens. This is a nice quiet alcove neighborhood in the center of the city. Has nice alleys and garages. That's rare in Baltimore. You can see this is a strong market. It's been building, almost more than doubling the number of sales in the past decade, and the house prices have steadily gone up. The next example is Reservoir Hill, which is a neighborhood that became very distressed and has huge properties, these big, grand 3-story houses that needed a lot of work. So the real estate evaluation for this one shows that there's actually a little bit of a decline in the past couple of years of the number of sales and the sale price. But because we have worked a lot in this neighborhood and we have feet on the street in this neighborhood, we know that we got Healthy Neighborhoods was awarded NSP2 funds, and we renovated a lot of these large houses with the subsidy. And that's what helped the sales in 2013 and 14 and 15. When that money ran out, we were awarded state funds and did a few more of the large houses that needed a lot of subsidy. And now the houses that are selling are more the smaller houses in the neighborhood that are able to access a Healthy Neighborhoods loan and do the rehab themselves. And so that's why the sales prices have gone down a little bit. And you wouldn't know that if you weren't feet on the street. So I think that in next steps for Baltimore is an evaluation of our middle neighborhood strategy by neighborhood through the typology map. And we have a planning group that has been assembled by the planning department and the housing department to work on strategies by neighborhood. And I'm excited that we're going to evaluate our program and move forward into this decade. I'll be able to answer questions at the end of all the presentations, but this is our website, healthyneighborhoods.org, and my email is jhope@healthyneighborhoods.org, and I'm happy to answer any questions or have conversations offline anytime in the future. I'm going to turn it over now to Councilwoman Parker from Philadelphia.
Here, can you hear me well? Jenny?
Well, they're all muted.
Yes.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
can hear you. This is Marcia.
I just wanted to make sure that my sound was working well. I want to say first that it's an honor and a privilege to join with Jenny and Amber to present today, and have to give credit where credit is due. Jenny, a lot of our work is focused on the model that we visited in Baltimore with Healthy Neighborhoods. So we want to say thank you for your leadership. We can go with the next slide. My name is Sherelle Parker, just for the record. I am the council person, and I represent the 9th Council District in the city of Philadelphia, and that includes neighborhoods in Northwest and the lower Northeast parts of the city. Now, in my district, if you hear about neighborhoods like East Mount Airy, West Oak Lane, and East Oak Lane, it is true. These neighborhoods have been success stories in African American home ownership. And the way I like to frame it is, I note that many of these homeowners moved on up like the Jeffersons in the 1960s and 70s. I am also proud that these parts of my district have some of the highest rates of home ownership in the city overall, and many of these homeowners are able to age in place with respect and dignity. And I have other parts of my council district, for the record, that are also success stories, like in new immigrant home ownership. Some of my neighborhoods, particularly if you ever hear of Alney and or Oxford Circle, I call them my mini United Nations. Many of the immigrants who now call these neighborhoods home, they've been able to carve out their version of the American dream, and it is complete with home ownership. I give you this background about my council district because I need you to know that the neighborhoods that make up my district, they are made stronger by its homeowners. Next slide. When people think of Philadelphia, they often think of Center City, right? With its gleaming skyscrapers, or our gigantic city hall in the middle of the downtown area, you know, or tourists coming to see our renowned Liberty Bell. But the city of Philadelphia is geographically very large. And as people like to say, it is truly a city of neighborhoods. Next slide. When people think about Philadelphia's middle neighborhoods housing stock, and even our gentrifying housing stock, they often think of the quintessential Philadelphia row home as seen in this photo. Next slide. But there is actually a lot more variety to Philadelphia's housing stock than just row homes. As you can see on this slide, these homes, which are located in my council district, they are twins, but they're actually built to kind of like look like row homes. Most importantly, note that these homes, and I'm biased, they're made of stone and brick, and not the newer, cheaper materials like aluminum and or vinyl siding. Though you can't tell it from the outside, some of these homes are also duplexes, and they were converted many years ago. Next slide. Twins are actually quite common throughout the city. And as you can see from these pictures, they don't always look like identical twins. The photo on the right seems like these two homes were once a part of a row home, but all their neighbors have since been torn down, and now they are just freestanding on their own. Next slide. We also have a lot of single family homes in Philadelphia. Now, these are, again, homes in my district. You see the diversity. Having homes that look like this, though, particularly for the elected officials advocating for dollars, they can be both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because many people want to buy and live in single family homes, and they want to achieve their little slice of the American dream. But it can be a curse because just looking from the outside, they make this neighborhood look like it's quote unquote doing just fine. When in reality, if you walked inside these homes, they may need $10,000 or more in repairs or modernization. Next slide. In fact, if you walk our middle neighborhoods, not drive, walk our middle neighborhoods, you will see signs of distress from the outside. Oftentimes, we found that homeowners will keep the front of their houses looking relatively nice. But if you walk around the back, it can be quite a different story. Next slide. There are several issues impacting Philadelphia's middle neighborhoods housing stock. Now, namely, these issues include the housing stock is aging. Many of the homes in my district, they were built 50, 60, or even 70 years ago. Because of this, though, there is a high need for housing preservation and modernization. Many of my constituents are retired and they're on a fixed income. And unfortunately, many of them are also denied loans when they try to access them through private banks and just conventional loans. Due to the state of the aging homes, heirs of the property, they're beginning to view the homes not as an asset, but instead as a liability. At the same time, property values are stagnating and homeowners are being subject to what we know as the ugly predatory lending, reverse mortgages, and foreclosures. We've also had a need to stave off investor-owned properties, most of which in essence become rentals. And related, we have a need to maintain this delicate balance in our city of homeowners versus renters in the neighborhood. And finally, we have a need for what I like to call neighborhood-wide succession planning. Now, somebody's going to say this sounds a bit morbid, but remember, I have an aging constituency. Many of my homeowners are older, and the fact of the matter is many of them may not be around in 10 to 15 years. So related to this, there is really a need to create a neighborhood-wide marketing plan so that we can attract new homeowners. Next slide. So now you have an understanding of the issues impacting Philadelphia's middle neighborhoods. Let me explain to you specifically the problem I'm trying to solve. As you can see from this headline, unequal lending keeps redlining alive in Philadelphia's gentrifying neighborhoods. Now listen, I intentionally crossed out gentrifying because unequal lending, it is happening throughout the city, whether the neighborhoods are gentrifying or not. Anyway, as you can see, the private sector has just a dismal 25.4% approval rate for home repair loans to low to moderate income buyers in Philadelphia, and just a 23% approval rate to African Americans in low to moderate income borrowers in Philadelphia. And that's the issue. Next slide. To solve this unequal lending problem, I worked to create a new housing preservation loan program. So how did we do it? City Council voted to raise our realty transfer tax by 0.1%, which kicked off about $8 million a year. We then used those proceeds to issue $100 million in bonds. Now, $60 million was to clear the backlog of an existing housing grant program, well, several programs, and $40 million was to create a new housing preservation loan program. Now, by way of background, many of my constituents do benefit from the housing grant programs in the city, but at the same time, many more of my constituents make what I call a nickel over the income eligibility guidelines for these grant programs. So they're usually not eligible. So it was politically expedient for me to tie this new loan program to mutual support for existing grant programs for lower income Philadelphians. Next slide. Here are brief details about Restore, Repair, Renew. This is Philadelphia's Housing Preservation Loan Program. Homeowners can get loans that range from $2,500 to $24,999. Homeowners have 10 years to pay back the loan at a 3% fixed rate, and the loans can fund a wide range of repairs, which will be detailed in a future slide. But also a quick note about the program. It is citywide. It is not piloted or targeted in just one neighborhood or a few. Again, it would not have been politically feasible for this program to have just been targeted at a few neighborhoods. Next slide. There's a lot of information on this slide, but I want you to know what I'm most proud of. It's the underwriting criteria for the loans. As you can see, homeowners can have a credit score as low as 580 and still qualify for the program. And the income guidelines go up to 120% of the AMI, the area median income, which is over $80,000 for a single person household, or over $115,000 for a four-person household. Next slide. For homeowners on the ground, they enter the program via one or two nonprofits. Right now, we have Clarify and PCCA. The nonprofits help our residents with everything from financial counseling to helping to find a contractor and connecting homeowners with a participating lender. We started out with two lenders, Univest and Finata, as CDFI. Finanta is no longer participating in the program, but we hope to add at least one new lender in 2021. Next slide. This slide goes into more detail about the eligible repairs. Now, I want to be clear that I advocated very strongly to ensure that essentially anything on the property, whether it's exterior or interior, could be eligible for repairs. For the exterior, and this is important with the aging housing stock, this includes sidewalks and steps in the front of the house, to share driveways and alleyways in the back. And for the interior of the home, health and safety repairs are included, but so are those general quality of life improvements, like those upgrades and modernizations. Next slide. Restore, repair, renew. In earnest, I guess we can say in late spring and early summer 2019, we really got started. There was a large number of applications, hundreds at the beginning, and then this sort of settled into around 70 or so applications a month. Pre-COVID, the numbers of the closings range from a handful to about over 20 per month. A problem that we have that still needs solving. It can take months to get from the application phase to the closing phase. So I'm not sure if this problem is solvable though, but I believe this is also an issue with private loans as well, and we will keep working on it. Next slide. Obviously, COVID impacted the program, right? The rate of origination slowed down in early 2020 and remains low, but it is encouraging that new applications, they spiked by over 260% in July and August. We need to ramp up our marketing efforts to get our volume back up. We're also brainstorming on ways to expand how consumers can originally access the program. But one continual ongoing issue that I know many of you can probably relate to is that there are not enough contractors to go around. And many contractors, they turn down this quote unquote small work, such as individual rehabs. Next slide. I want to end on a positive note, though. I want to say that the program has been fully up and running for about a year, if you take out COVID slowdown months. In that year, we have closed 125 loans worth almost $2 million in total. The most impressive part of the program, though, it remains the 58% approval rate as compared to that 25% approval rate that I showed you earlier with private banks. And listen to this, the default rate is 0%. With very few borrowers past due. The average loan size is over $20,000, which I really think speaks to the need that homeowners have in terms of repairs and upgrades. And finally, 84% of borrowers are minorities, and the average income for borrowers is 66% of the AMI, and that's about $45,000 for a one-person household, or $64,000 for a four-person household. Next slide. Finally, I want to close by reminding everyone that stabilizing neighborhoods can't be about only updating the housing stock. As you all know, there are other larger issues that affect the health and well-being of middle neighborhoods, and these go beyond the housing stock. In Philadelphia, I quickly want to just highlight a few other citywide programs that are directly benefiting middle neighborhoods. First, we have our Philly First Home program. It's relatively new. It's assisting new homeowners by giving eligible applicants up to a $10,000 grant for closing costs and down payment assistance. The program, listen, it's immensely popular, but unfortunately it had to be put on hold due to COVID-related budget cuts, but we're hoping, and we know we'll get back up and running soon. Then my baby, PHL Taking Care of Business, or PHL TCB. as it's called. It's a $10 million commercial corridor cleaning program. I like to think of our neighborhoods, and this is what I describe them, our neighborhood-based commercial corridors as the arteries of our neighborhoods, right? And the health and the value of a neighborhood's housing stock is directly tied to the health of its commercial quarter. Then we have another program called Rebuild. That's an effort to rehab and revitalize our city's aging wrecks, our libraries, and our parks. The program is funded via the beverage tax or the soda tax, as people call it. Finally, in Philadelphia, as I imagine in many of your cities, there is this constant drumbeat of people saying, we need to build more affordable housing. I want you to know, I don't agree with that viewpoint alone, that cities, the only way to keep cities affordable for lower and moderate income individuals is to build new. No. I always say the best affordable housing this city has is our existing housing stock. And if we focus our efforts on rehab and modernization, then that will go a long way to stabilizing our neighborhoods. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. Thank you all so very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. That's terrific. And our next panelist is Amber Lynch from Invest DSM. DSM is the airport code for Des Moines, in case you wondered. So take it away, Amber.
Thanks, Marcia. I appreciate the invitation to be here and the excellent presentations from my two co-presenters. So we'll talk about how this shakes out in Des Moines a little bit. Des Moines is a little bit different scale of city than Baltimore and Philadelphia. We are about 215,000 population in the city proper, and then our metro is around 750,000 and growing. So we're a little bit more of a mid-sized city. Our neighborhoods are predominantly single family. A lot of wood frame housing stock, most of which was constructed pre-1950. So the neighborhoods that Invest DSM is serving, a lot of the homes are from the early 1900s, kind of through the 1930s. Invest DSM is a nonprofit organization. We are kind of a unique nonprofit. We were created in partnership between the city of Des Moines and Polk County. So Marcia was part of our consulting team for part of this process. So that's why she's joking that she can't remember the name of our county. We're still a pretty new organization. We were just created in July 2019. So we're about a year and a half old. We have an annual budget of $5 million and basically a 10-year program budget of $50 million for the 4 neighborhoods that we are currently serving. Part of the reason that Invest DSM came to be is we did an evaluation of the city of Des Moines' kind of long-standing neighborhood revitalization program. And as part of that work, one of the things that we identified was that we needed a different. First of all, we needed to focus a little bit more on our middle neighborhoods. And then secondly, we needed an organization that could focus more broadly on coordinating all of the different pieces that it takes to bring a neighborhood back to healthy. Des Moines, being a smaller city, we do certainly have some great nonprofit organizations, but we really don't have any CDCs or organizations that look holistically at a neighborhood. Most of our nonprofits are more narrowly focused on kind of a single topic area. So Invest DSM was put into place to act a little bit as an umbrella and also build out a new toolkit for how to reinvest in our older housing stock. And the overarching goal that we're really working towards is improving property values. And that is mainly because as part of all the data analysis work that we did leading up to this, one of the things that we recognized was about 2/3 of our city's property values are not keeping pace with inflation over the last 15 years. And so that becomes a problem for our property owners who are then not building equity in their homes, and also for our city's budget, which, our costs have been outpacing our revenue stream for the last probably 15 to 20 years. So for the city of Des Moines, this was really a strategy to try and rebuild the tax base and to strengthen the neighborhoods that we have, being older neighborhoods that are trying to compete in a regional market where there's a lot of new construction happening. So currently we have 4 neighborhoods that InvestDSM is serving. These are all middle market neighborhoods. We created a typology much like the one that Jenny showed as part of her slide deck. And so these 4 neighborhoods fall in the middle. We are calling them special investment districts because they don't quite follow neighborhood boundaries in Des Moines. Our Franklin area overlaps 2 different neighborhoods, and then the other 3 are kind of smaller subsections of a larger neighborhood. And that was very intentional. We were looking for we wanted a specific scale for the geography that we were serving so that the impact could actually be felt. So our first 2, Franklin and Drake, are a little bit larger, but we have fewer properties per block that we need to impact in those areas. Columbus Park and Oak Park are smaller areas, and we have more properties per block that are in poorer condition. So InvestDSM, as I said, we kind of act as that umbrella for strategy and coordination in these 4 neighborhoods. The city did put together a revitalization plan for each neighborhood that involved residents, business owners, other stakeholders, and then we are really overseeing the implementation of those neighborhood plans. So our strategies and our outcomes focus fairly broadly on both how we improve the real estate in these neighborhoods as well as how we improve quality of life. We also have a number of tasks around building resident leadership and neighborhood capacity, as well as some of the branding and marketing that our other 2 presenters have talked about. And then we have kind of our direct service component, which is how we invest in the housing stock. We also have some programs for commercial properties, either through direct partnerships with developers or other nonprofit organizations, and then grants directly to property owners. So I think we're a little bit unique. We have another nonprofit in Des Moines that does lending. And so when we put InvestDSM together, we didn't want to duplicate that tool. And so we are doing most of our work through grants at this point in time. And then we also do some property acquisition and rehab resale work as well. So I'm going to talk about 2 of our programs today and spend most of my time on this one. The first program we rolled out last spring is called our Block Challenge Grant Program. This one is aimed at exterior home improvements. It's a matching grant, so dollar for dollar up to a certain amount. And the point of this program, the purpose of it is really to, number 1, get neighbors working together. And then 2, it's aimed at projects that kind of improve the curb appeal of the property. So it's available to both homeowners and rental property owners. The hitch is they just have to be current on their taxes, have a valid rental certificate if they're a rental, and the property owner, the title holder, actually has to sign off on the application. We require them to apply as a team, so they have to have at least 5 neighbors that can see each other from their front door. So each project has to be within a visible distance of the other, which means that then we get that block level impact. If they have between 5 and 9 neighbors together, we'll match each person up to $1,000. If they have more than 10 neighbors on a team, we will match each person up to $2,500. Everybody gets to pick their own scope of work. So somebody might replace a driveway, somebody else might do a landscaping project. They do not all have to have the same project. We do require them to meet twice in order to submit both a team application and then individual scopes of work. And one of those meetings has to be with one of our staff so that we can outline kind of the do's and don'ts of the program. This became a little bit tricky because we launched it right as COVID hit Iowa. And so we had to be a little bit flexible on those meeting requirements. We ended up doing some, across the street from each other in people's front yards, and then others over Zoom. But even so, our expectations were blown away with this program this year. And I'll get to that here in a minute. Once the team submits their application, our staff reviews each individual scope of work, any contractor bids, if that's applicable, and then we approve the team, and all of those team members have 60 days to complete the projects. I think one thing we learned this year is that sometimes 60 days isn't enough. We might bump that up to 90, just because getting contractors scheduled can be difficult in the summer months sometimes. And then this one is a reimbursement-based grant. So at the end of the project, when it's complete, the property owner submits their receipts or their invoices from their contractors, and then we reimburse them for half of the costs up to that maximum match amount. We have seen a wide variety of projects come in the door through this program. So we've had window replacements. We have had a lot of new front walkways, so some brick walkways that have been redone, redone stucco on the exterior. We've had new front doors, new front lights, porch lights, house numbers. We've done a number of landscaping projects. Some of those have been contracted, and some of those we have reimbursed for the cost of the plants and other materials, and then the homeowner has done the labor themselves. We have had some exterior painting projects, retaining walls, new siding in some cases. We have had homeowners that have done some stormwater mitigation projects, regrading, new gutters, that sort of thing. A lot of front porch rebuilding, some more exterior, some foundation work, exterior paint. So we've had a wide variety. We require that the majority of the improvements happen on the front of the house. But of course, if somebody is doing something like windows or exterior painting, we want them to do that on the entire house, not just the front. We also had a number of people take care of issues with garages. Des Moines has a lot of detached garages in the back, the rear of the property. And so we've had a lot of repairs to garages. It's interesting, you often see in our neighborhoods, the house will be in good condition and then the garage back behind it is starting to fall into disrepair and can be quite an eyesore for the neighborhood. So we've had a lot of those types of things get corrected through this program as well. Just a few more pictures here, retaining walls again, get a sense of the housing stock. So we went into the spring with a goal of trying to do 50 projects. Again, this is relationships and learning, and we, had a pandemic that we didn't necessarily and like I said, our expectations were really blown away. We ended up with 16 different teams across our 4 special investment districts and 240 participants this year. The average project cost was about $4,500, $4,600, and the range was everything from a couple of $100s all the way up to $18,000 to $20,000 projects, with our match still being that maximum of $1,000 or $2,500. The total investment through this program just this year was almost 1.1 million. And for every dollar that InvestDSM contributed, property owners invested about $1.51. So we're getting a really good leverage on our funds. And also, these are dollars that probably would not have been invested in the housing stock otherwise. I think a lot of the homeowners that we talked to said, hey, I've been sitting on these projects for a while. You gave me that incentive that I needed to actually get it done. I think we were also helped by the fact that people were home this year. And so they were able to meet with contractors and get moving on their to-do list. And then some of the other benefits that we've seen through the program are just neighbors are feeling a lot more connected to one another. We've had a lot of comments about, I now know my neighbors' names instead of just their dogs' names. They're sharing contractor information, getting more involved in the neighborhood associations, and just feeling more confident about investing in their properties and getting that sense of pride that comes with doing something impactful and working together. So I will very briefly then touch on our homeowner renovation program, and then I think we need to turn it over to questions at the end. So this is more of an individual program. Again, it's a grant program for homeowners, existing homeowners in our neighborhoods. We're really intending to try and overcome appraisal gaps here, where the cost to do renovations is more than the property can either sell for or appraise for at the end. But then we're also trying to overcome, what we call the willingness gap. If you are looking around and your neighbors are not investing in their properties, you don't have a lot of incentive to do so yourself. And so we are trying to kind of grease the wheels so that neighbors start seeing each other invest in their properties and have a little bit more willingness and confidence to do so. So the grant is a cost share. It's based on kind of the median value in the neighborhood and then also the total cost of the project. Our portion is anywhere from 20 to 50% of the total project costs. And for larger projects, we do secure that with a mortgage, usually a second mortgage, and then that gets forgiven over 5 to 7 years. So we're trying to retain homeowners in the neighborhood with that as well. There's a variety of things that can enter into that project cost equation. We're trying to be fairly comprehensive in that so that we're removing some of the barriers to getting larger projects done. We have a lot of housing stock that has, 2 bedrooms or 1 bath, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. And so we're really trying to make the incentives work for people to add that second bathroom or to add another bedroom and bath living space, put an addition on their existing home. There's a couple of bullets there about our process. So our staff does meet with the homeowner at the front end to kind of vet the project scope and specs. One of the things that we're really trying to do is raise the bar in terms of the standard of design and construction materials that are being used. We have a lot of DIY projects in the city that aren't necessarily permitted properly or up to code. And so we're trying to make sure that all of those things happen. I see a question in the chat about our source of funding, so I'll come back to that in a minute. Our staff provides technical assistance kind of throughout that process. The homeowner is able to get the remainder of their financing however they choose. So in some cases, we've had homeowners use savings that they have on hand, or they might have access to a home equity line of credit, or they get a loan through a bank. We are working on some bank partnerships right now, but being so early on, we are kind of just getting those under our belt. So it's definitely a program that we're still on the front end of, and we're still learning lessons there, but it's a little bit different than some of the loan programs that you've heard about. And so I wanted to be sure to mention it. I will wrap up there, but here is my contact information and our website if you're interested in learning more. Happy to talk offline, and we can move into questions now. As to the question about our funding sources, so it's all local funds. The city's funding source, actually both the city and county, we passed a local option sales tax, which was a 1-cent sales tax a few months before we were getting ready to create this organization. And so that ended up being our funding source from the city and county, is those sales tax dollars. So Marcia, I will leave it there and let you field questions for all of us.
Thank you so much, Amber. And I see Rachel has answered the question about where the city of Philadelphia's program funds came from. She says it's a bond issuance of $100 million. And I believe the payment, the bond is paid for by raising the realty transfer tax. So I think that's one of the interesting aspects about investment in middle neighborhoods is that, part or sometimes the major part of the case for investing in middle neighborhoods is that, the city can expect to see the impact of that investment in more stable real estate tax income in the future. And because of that, they're willing to actually use funds that are not just federal pass-throughs. So we definitely are opening it up for questions here. Please type them either in the chat or in the Q&A. See if I can open both things. Carrie says, how about the source of funds at Baltimore for the matching grants? How about that, Jenny? The matching grants that went up to 120.
Yes, I was just putting it in the chat, but yes, our matching grants are funded by the city.
And do you know
as
what source of
general
funds they use? The city, that is.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I guess I didn't hear your answer to that.
Oh, the matching grants are funded by the city, just the general fund.
Oh,
And-
general fund. Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
And the city also funds the operating money and the neighborhood project money that we give to our partners.
Uh-huh. And is that general fund also, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's really interesting to me. I will say, and I'll invite anybody else, of course, to comment on this, that it makes sense to me for all kinds of reasons that to have an expectation that investment in middle neighborhoods will not come at the expense of investment that's already happening in more distressed neighborhoods. And most of the CDBG and home allocations that cities get are already invested in the more distressed neighborhoods. So I don't think it's a universally held opinion that I have, but I think any place that I'm working in where I'm thinking about a middle neighborhood investment strategy, my starting expectation is that we're looking for funding sources that are not CDBG, home, and other things that are currently directed at very distressed neighborhoods.
I listen, I just want to contribute here and to say I agree wholeheartedly. I would also argue that the practitioners in community development corporations, healthy neighborhoods, is very important to communicate to the constituency who needs the help that they should be advocating for their interests, which is in preservation. Because so many times in council, I would see people sort of trying to pit the have-nots against those who only have a little bit. And so during my presentation, you heard me say to people in middle neighborhoods, they usually made a nickel over the income eligibility guidelines. So those more traditional programs funded by the CDBG dollars, they couldn't participate in those. But I would argue that those homeowners in middle neighborhoods, because of the high rate of home ownership, they're civically engaged. They have to become more interested in advocating for their issues and not allow people to shame them into advocating for that investment, because we had a lot of that happening in Philadelphia.
That is fascinating, Councilwoman. And I have heard you speak before to the common tactic of pitting the have-nots with the have-a-little-bits. And it's just so well put. And I just think you raise a really important point. People in middle neighborhoods they don't think of themselves as, they know they are not the neediest people in the city. And so they can often have a reluctance to advocate for themselves. But they have to be part of the advocacy picture, I think, if cities are really going to commit funds to them. And, they have to be able to help articulate the self-interest that the city has as well.
Right. Marcia, this is Jenny from Baltimore. I wanted to add that the middle neighborhoods are 60% of the residents of Baltimore City. So,
Wow.
and as a previous presentation from middleneighborhoods.org was that, an ounce of prevention really, saves a lot of long-term investment that needs to happen. If you can keep neighborhoods stable and revitalized in the middle, then you're really helping the entire city.
That's a really good, yeah, I want to underline what you said. It's one of the main, I think, arguments for investing in middle neighborhoods now is that if you don't, many of them are going to be the distressed neighborhoods that we have to deal with later. and it's a lot less money to invest between, you know, $5,000 and $20,000 per property to correct, you know, to make the updates that need to be made and to build the confidence of homeowners who can afford to match that now, than to wait until that property has slipped into the hands of a, you know, bottom feeding investor and needs much more work.
Mhm.
Any other questions? We are approaching the top of the hour. I do want to say, just point out on this last slide that if you have any questions, you have any ideas, here are a variety of ways to get them answered or to contribute them. Our book you can buy on Amazon, or you can read it in its entirety at the website of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. We have a website, middleneighborhoods.org. We encourage you at the bottom of any page to sign up for at least our newsletter, but we'd love it if you joined our community practice. And then we do an every other month newsletter that features, you know, what other practitioners are doing. It's really focused on the community of practice. We have a mapping tool now that is, there's an email address for it at the beginning. If you want to just start to play around with looking at different ways you might identify what the middle neighborhoods are in your community. Both Jenny and Amber have the benefit of some pretty significant market analysis, sophisticated market analysis, to come up with more sophisticated ways of typing and characterizing all the different types of neighborhoods in their communities. And that's a place that a lot of communities will go eventually, but just to start out, they all started out at this place of just, let's take a quick look at where our middle income neighborhoods are and start to see how that compares with what we observe on the ground, et cetera. So that's a great tool to use. Also, please feel free to contact me directly if you'd like to have a referral, a connection made, if you'd like for us to deliver a Middle Neighborhoods 101 webinar to anyone in your community. If there's any way we can help at all, we'd like to do that. Okay, well, I think everybody, I don't see any more. Let me make sure. I don't see any more in the Q&A that we haven't answered, at least possibly in the, oh, we see Peter Duval saying the property tax rate in Baltimore is quite high. So is it reasonable? It is reasonable to believe that extra taxes eventually generated by healthy neighborhoods will flow back into the general fund and cover the upfront expense. That's good. Oh, and I think that either Anne or Sheila mentioned that for Amber's Block Challenge program, we are writing that up right now as a case study, and that will be posted on our website. We'll probably feature it in our next newsletter as well, so you can learn a lot more about that. And I think we might have someone from Jamestown, New York here, I think, so who would be very familiar with some of your other neighbors. And I think Amber's Block Challenge program was in some part modeled after one of your group of healthy neighborhood programs up there in Western New York State. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate your attendance. I hope you will check out all of the resources that we have at middleneighborhoods.org. Please join us in the COP, the community practice, and we will see you next month. I can't believe it's December. We'll see you next year. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.